All right, this is Morgan coming at you. I was going to do this live, but I don't have a good enough internet connection here on the ski slope to actually do it. And today I want to talk about commitment and grants and your research career. So commitment is super important, but not everybody demonstrates the level of commitment that's necessary sometimes to succeed at this. And the reason I'm recording here on the ski slopes is this slope behind me demonstrates the principle of commitment. So does skiing in general. Like, you start coming down a slope like this and you're pretty committed. You can't go back up to the top and take the lift back down. You can't go down the bunny slopes once you're on a slope like this. You have to go down one way or another. And you're either doing it, elegantly, or you're doing it with a lot of crashes and wipeouts and perhaps trying to do what's called post-holing, which is trying to actually walk in the, this snow is at least 6 feet deep. So if you try to walk in it, your legs go down and create post holes. So it's pretty crazy. Once you're here, you're here. I think that's a lot like a research career, that especially if you have set on a path of having an independent research career, being able to really commit to getting better at grant writing and just being in general able to promote your science and get out there and get your name and get your science out there in an effective way without being obnoxious or pushy about it is so critical. And before I continue, and if you're just joining me in the video, then if you want more help with the grant writing, you can go to grantwebinar.com, and I have some free training for you there. That's pretty awesome. So anyway, continuing on the commitment thing, I run a program with several coaches called Grant Foundry, and it's a super intensive and it's expensive. The tuition is not cheap to join us in Grant Foundry because we can only work with a small number of people, and there's way more demand than we have the capacity to work with that people on that intensive basis. And in a recent iteration of the program that's just wrapping up, there we had a 2-day online virtual workshop where we were reviewing grant proposals in depth and doing other training, and several of the members didn't show up. They just were oh, I'm too busy to do this. And I like the saying that you're too busy to not do it, because this is a critical skill. And a lot of people, not everybody, there are some people who are super committed. There were people who showed up for both days of our grant summit and they got a lot out of it. And we gave them some really in-depth feedback, and it was pretty awesome. And their proposals are getting better and better. But the people who were, quote, too busy to show up, one of them asked me recently for some separate one-on-one help. And I'm I can't do that if you didn't even bother to show up for the thing that we've already established to help you. And I think in their mind, I've seen this before, this person probably thought that, hey, I don't have time to spend 2 days, but I want this intensive focus help. I just want feedback on my grant proposal. But the thing to understand is this skill that you're learning, that you have hopefully committed to learning, of really doing your grants well, it takes a long time to learn. It's a very nuanced skill, and it's an art as well. And so it's not something that you can just learn by getting some feedback once in a while. It's something that you need to, in my opinion, immerse yourself in for a period of time, whatever that period of time may be, until you really nail it, until you really get it. And that can be, for most of us, it takes years to truly nail that skill. And it takes years of being immersed in seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work. So even though somebody might not want to hear reviews of other people's grants, that is an important part of the immersive process. It is a part of listening and seeing with colleagues, not only your own stuff, but with colleagues, what works and what doesn't. And again, I think it's really about commitment. A lot of people don't seem truly committed to mastering this. It's sort of like an afterthought. Oh, I want to do this research career, and I need funding to keep it going. I need funding to make this happen. And so they're like sitting there trying to figure out how to take the shortest path, the quickest path to just doing this thing that they don't really want to do. And I'm here to tell you that you have to really, the people anyway that I've seen who really take off with this, it's not just something they do reluctantly. It's something they learn to do well, and they take pride and satisfaction in, and some even have fun with it. I had a lot of fun with my grant proposals, like once I started figuring out how to really do them well. And so, by the way, again, if you're just joining us, another plug for the free training that I offer. When you go over to grantwebinar.com and sign up there, I have this free training for you, and part of it is all about having more fun. Like, the more you learn how to do it right, the more fun the process becomes. So in any case, back to the commitment thing, it's just, I really see this divide between a smaller number of people who are truly committed to mastering this just for the very process of mastering it, not just so they can get a little bit more funding and just squeak by, but because they really want to master a fundamental skill of survival in an independent research career. And those are the people who really mostly take off. Like, they take off at different speeds, but they all get big results with that level of commitment. Whereas the people who have the lower commitment, who are just like, oh, I'll take this class, but I'm going to do the minimum I can possibly do to just like quickly get the result. Those are the people who I see struggling on and on and on. And it's so frustrating to me to hear from people years later who really never committed in the first place, and they're still struggling. They're still getting too many rejections. So I want to encourage you to treat it just like you would if you were out here skiing with me. And I'm saying this for your own good. I mean, it doesn't matter really whether you get funding or not in my life. So, but it's important. It's really important to do that commitment thing if you want it to be an awesome chance for you to advance your career, get your grants funded. And it takes commitment. It takes dedication. It takes real focus. It takes not only getting feedback on your own proposals, but it takes really getting that, immersing yourself in that whole process. With Grant Foundry, like I said, we teach that a few times per year, and it's very limited how many people we can take, and it's expensive. The tuition cost is high, and yet there are people who take it several times, time after time, because they realize how valuable it is to be consistently immersed in that environment until they really get it, until it's fully, centered in the brain and cemented in there, and it's just natural second habit. And then those people go out and do this almost effortlessly. I mean, that's the transformation I experienced in my grants after struggling for my first 3 or so years as a faculty member at UNC Chapel Hill. I finally started mastering this. I finally found somebody who could help me with this stuff, and it took several years, but once I made that transformation, then getting grants was pretty easy for me. I mean, I wouldn't say totally easy, but it was satisfying. It was fun. It was challenging, but not challenging in an awful way, like I saw so many and still see so many of my colleagues struggle with. It's just often an awful process for so many people. Let's not have this be awful. Commit. If you're ready, commit to really getting better at it, however you choose to do that commitment. And if Grant Foundry is something that you're excited about, that level of commitment, if you want to do more than just the free training over at grantwebinar.com, then you can put in the comments Grant Foundry and or private message me about Grant Foundry, and I'm happy to talk to you about whether it seems like a good fit for you to be part of Grant Foundry. We're pretty selective about who we can even take, because I want to work with only the most dedicated and committed students. I mean, at this point, I've had so many successes helping people with grants, and I've had so many of my own successes. I can afford to be selective. And so that's what I am. And you may think I'm being a hard ass, and yeah, I'm kind of a hard ass about it, because life is short. I want to be out skiing as much as I can. So if you're going to work with me and my team, I really want you to be committed to like doing awesomely at this, and understanding that doing awesomely at this takes time. It takes long-term immersion in the process. So that's it for today. My family is already somewhere way down there. I need to go meet up with them. But thanks for tuning in and listening. And again, if you just want a less committed approach to your grants, to improving them, and then you can go to grantwebinar.com and sign up for my free training that's there, and just see more what kind of stuff I teach and how you can use that in your grants right away to make them better, more persuasive, and more powerful. All right, well, until next time, this is Dr. Morgan, and I will see you later.